All right, folks, welcome to another Buckmasters Big Buck Blueprint podcast. And man, for the first time, I don't know what our problem is, but we have our first female on our podcast, Jessica Burks from Virginia. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Well, I see that big buck behind you, and we'll talk about it here in a minute. But boy, that is an awesome deer. So now tell me where you're from. What part of Virginia?
From Central Virginia.
Central Virginia. And you married,
Mhm.
got kids, all that good stuff?
Yes, I'm married. I got three children.
Really? Wow. What's the ages
hmm
on all your kids?
So they're 6, 10, and 14.
Oh, my Lord. Well, you'll have gray hair coming soon.
Oh, yeah, I already do. I just got to cover it up.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, I call it the third life. I'm in my third life. I was single, I was married with kids, now I've got grandkids. So we're starting over and all that. So it is a lot of fun, I'll tell you that.
Oh,
All right, let's talk a little bit about your hunting career. Did you start hunting when you were young? Did you start hunting with your husband? Tell me how you got started.
so I was young. I first started just shooting, like
Hmm.
5 years old. My dad's like out there trying to get me to be Annie Oakley,
Right.
So I've always either done hunting either with bucks or squirrels or whatever. We do a lot of doe management too. So just growing up, always being in the woods or something.
Oh, good. So you're
Mhm.
not the typical one that, hey, I didn't hunt, but their husband got me. Your dad got you going.
Yes. hmm
That's cool. That's cool. Now, when did you shoot your first deer?
I was actually a teenager when I shot my first deer because even though I hunted with dad, me and him were too much alike. So we would usually spend our time arguing or fighting in the stand because one of us made too much noise.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter did the same thing. Now, she shot her first deer when she was 11 or 12, but she just wanted to be on television. She thought she might get a
Oh,
boyfriend out of the deal or something. So,
oh,
and then when she got to 15, she kind of left. Okay, I think the boys
yeah.
and she was cheerleading and doing all that, and then she finally came back when she was 22 and started hunting again. But I think that's cool. That's a special bond between a daughter and a dad, and you got started with your dad.
Yes.
All right, talk to me. Do y'all have a farm? Is this leased land that y'all hunt? Tell me about. You don't have to tell me where it is. I'm just trying to figure out how many acres you're hunting and stuff.
So just 20 minutes away from us, we have about 140 acres. It's private land.
Mm-hmm.
And it butts up against the national forest.
Oh,
So
okay, that helps.
yeah, so we get lucky enough to be able to hunt lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, tell me, what do you do for a living?
So I'm a psychiatric nurse and I get to work from home now. So that's nice.
Oh, okay. Well, if I need some help, can you work with me, like you're working with me on this podcast today?
Absolutely. Anytime. Call me anytime. I'll help you out.
My wife says I need help, so hey, I've got my help now. I just called Jessica now. So
Well, I say you have to work, you have to have a little bit of mental health issues yourself to be able to help others.
I hear you. I hear you. All right, Jessica, before we start talking about that big deer, this part of the podcast is brought to you by Camo Skins, the maker of the phone covers and the tumblers and the wallets and et cetera. If everybody will go to the link right there in the description, you can find out all their great products. All right, let's talk about that deer behind you. Tell me the story of how it happened and then all the way to the end.
Okay. So before I had harvested him, it had been 4 years before that. And it was Thanksgiving. And I was like, I'm not staying to cook, y'all. I got to go hunting. So I went hunting. I was by myself. And my dad had bought, like, it was not a redneck blind, but it was one of the plastic blinds
Mm-hmm.
I was up in. And I remember looking, it was to my right, and I was like, that is a huge deer. Home, like I couldn't even get myself together to turn around to try to get the window down or anything. So he walked right by me, and I'm just like sick to my stomach. So when I go back in telling everybody, I'm like, I seen this huge, I think he was an 8 pointer. He was tall, it was real tight in the front, kind of had like a heart shape to him. Nobody believed me.
Really?
Not, no. They didn't. And then I had cameras up at the place. I never, I didn't even get any videos of him or any pictures at all. But every year after that, around Thanksgiving, I seen him again, but he was just old. He was smart. Other people had seen him and he did the same thing to them as well. Walk right behind their stands, sneak
Really?
in. So yeah,
So how
he
many
avoided
years? So you saw him how many years before you got him?
4 years.
Wow. So this deer's
I knew he was out there.
so that deer has to be 5 to 7 years old. If you saw him that
He's eight
many,
and a half.
8.5 is what they.
Uh-huh.
Oh
I got
my
him
God.
aged. He's 8.5 years old.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
When did you start getting trail camera pictures of him?
So I didn't get any pictures.
Really?
Yeah, the people that there's a few other hunters that were after him too that I
Hmm.
didn't learn until after I had harvested him,
Hmm.
but they had tons of pictures from him. And actually, a few that I had seen were from 2 years before that. And this right here was actually a big ball hanging off.
No
So you
kidding.
could definitely tell that he started to decline in his
Uh-huh.
older age.
Sure. Sure.
So.
Now, when you kept seeing him, you saw him for 3 years in a row before you got him. Was it about the same time that you would see him, or would you see him early season, late season? How'd that work?
It was always around like either the week of Thanksgiving, the week before, or the week after. It was only a 3 week, time span that I would even get a chance. But I mean, I hunted him hard. One year, that's the only thing that I was after, was
Yeah.
him.
Well,
So
when is the rut in Virginia when you're hunting? I assume you're rifle hunting, right?
yeah, it's rifle. So the weather has been terrible the past couple years. So sometimes it'll be cold, sometimes it's afterwards, but it's usually, I would say November, sometimes
Hmm.
it's early October. So it's hit and miss.
I got you. All right, so we're to the day. This is the fourth year. You've already seen him 3 years. Let's go to the day that it all happened, the weather, everything. And are you hunting a bean
Okay.
field, cornfield? Tell me the food source and everything.
Okay. So it was actually the fifth year because it
Fifth
was
year.
4 years that I'd hunted him. Yeah. So it was in a planted corn. So actually, it was a fire on the mountain in the national forest, and the smoke had came down and provided a lot of cover. It was hard to see, but it was actually Thanksgiving Day. I'd left from a cookout, and I was sick, a couple weeks before that, so I didn't get to hunt for probably about a month. I had pneumonia, so I shouldn't have even been out there, but
Hmm.
I have to go.
Yeah.
I'm in the redneck blind. It's covered up. I don't have anything blowing at me. I'm fine. So I looked down through the field and he was 158 yards. And luckily, I couldn't see him, that great, but
Uh-huh.
I still knew what it was, So, I mean, the smoke provided coverage and he was. That was the only time he really messed up. I
Yeah.
guess he couldn't smell me. He thought that he was covered, but he came right out in front of me, came out to the to my right hand side, and he came was eating the corn off the ground, and he just stood broadside for a minute. I had my son with me,
Really?
and I was like, Yeah, I was like, "Are you sure you don't want to shoot?" And he was like, "No, it's not that big." I was like, "Well, I've taught you how to hunt, but I'm not gonna tell you how big he actually is." So yeah. So I shot him, and as soon as he fell down, I went to my knees because I knew exactly what it was, and I was just squalling. I'm like, I know what it is. So then I could see him like he dropped immediately, but
Uh-huh.
still he was crawling a little bit. I'm like, I'm not letting him go. So I had to have a little secondary insurance
Sure.
shot to
Sure.
make sure he didn't go anywhere.
Well,
But
that's the humane thing to do. And like I said, if that deer's still moving, go on and make the next shot and just
yeah,
be calm. So was he chasing does or just coming out to feed in the corn
no, he was by himself.
by himself? Was it right before
Mhm.
dark or was you have plenty of light?
Oh no, it was around 4:45, I would say.
Really?
Yeah, so I called my husband immediately when I shot him, and I called him Rocky. I would always say he's a fighter, because
Yeah.
he dodged everybody, like he wouldn't let
Yeah.
anybody see him, but he's this huge moose walking out, so and I had taken children hunting all the time, for youth season. Everybody came, they're like, I want to learn how to shoot. I want to learn how to hunt, and that's fine. But if Rocky comes out there, you better not shoot him. Like I'm gonna kick your feet out from under you. You're not gonna kill that deer. So he came out and I called my husband and I was like, I got him. Like, I think that's him. He's like, don't move. Don't go over there to him. I'll help you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't listen very well. So I ran down. I jumped up that tree stand as fast as I could and ran over there. And, I had seen him from so far away that I didn't really realize how big he was or how much he had going on.
Right.
Because like I said, when I did get a good look, he was touching the beams. So when I went to pick him up, and try to drag him out myself, which I couldn't, but still, he was wrapped up in some vines. So the more I'd pull the vines out, the more I realized that was actually his hardware. And I'm sitting there squalling. There was a recovery video that I have, and I'm just crying because, you hunt a buck that hard and he's that big. It's such a, it's just an appreciation for that animal.
No question. And you had 5 years of experience with him. And you never got a trail camera. Your buddies next door to you had all the trail camera pictures, and you never did. He just showed up around Thanksgiving every year in the cornfield.
I think he lived in the national forest, and that was kind of like his travel. It was just his pattern, and I got used to it. But I heard a lot about it after I got him,
Oh,
like, I've been hunting him forever, too. I'm sorry, but not sorry.
Exactly.
I have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's the cool thing about you at least have property and having, the national forest being a sanctuary kind of deal. These deer can be hunted with not much pressure, and they can grow to 8 years old and get potential like that deer has right there. That's the cool thing. Thanksgiving, you know how many deer, I've shot a lot of deer on Thanksgiving. I don't know, we're just so thankful for Thanksgiving, but I have taken a lot of nice deer on Thanksgiving, and now that's a Thanksgiving you'll never forget, will it?
Oh, no, never. Never will.
That's cool. All right, do this. I know you just hung him on the wall right there. Take him off the wall and let's look at him real close.
Okay. Move my chair so I don't trip.
And our buddy Anders Blitz, who just became a master scorer because he scored over 100 deer, did your scoring. I see your certificate on the wall right behind you. Look at the drops on that. Look at those main beams just do a complete drop. Wow.
Yeah, so and they scored as main beams. We were a little concerned about that, but they scored right as the main beams.
Wow.
So yeah, he's a mainframe 8.
Look at that. Look at all the kickers and the drops and everything. Got great mass.
He's got 3 drops.
Wow.
And several kickers.
Look at that.
Well,
look at that. Oh, look at that right there. Look at the mass right there. It's kind of webbed right there. That is so cool.
Yeah. That's my favorite, like right here.
Yeah. So what did he finish up scoring? What was it?
It was 168.
Wow. That is a tremendous
For
buck.
Virginia,
Yeah, absolutely. I've never, I hunt here in Alabama, so we've got some deer like that, but not many where I'm hunting. So you're blessed, my dear. Well, that is so cool.
Yeah, I'm very blessed, very grateful, still surreal. I look at him all the time. I'm just like, thank you. I told him thank you after I killed him.
Were you familiar with the BTR scoring system before Anders got in touch with you?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Well, my dear, you are in our record book. Hey, and I always tell this to everybody that shoots a really great buck like that. You've got your World Series ring on your finger, okay? If you never take another one, if you've never taken another one, you got one. So if there's more fingers and more rings, only God will know that. But you love to hunt. I can see it in your face and your smile. Now, how does it work with you and your husband? Does your husband hunt too? And who gets to pick the deer to shoot and stuff? Do y'all get in arguments on who's going to hunt in which field?
So he likes to hunt, but he's very impatient. So if he doesn't see anything like within an hour or two, he's gone. And
Yeah.
I could sleep in the stand. Like I could be there from sun up to sundown. I don't
Really?
care. I'm patient. Yeah, and the funny thing is like my attention span is like a gnat. So usually my mind is running, a million miles an hour. But when I'm in that tree stand, or I really like to be in the dirt, but with him I couldn't be in the dirt. But everything's quiet,
Yeah.
like there's no noise in my head. I'm just listening to usually squirrels, but
Uh-huh.
whatever I can hear is it's very peaceful. So I think that's why I can stay there longer. But he knew, don't touch this, like don't touch him. Like I know what I'm after. Yeah. But there's a few that are out there, that I feel like has his genes. And,
Mhm.
now that I've gotten him, I think it's going to be fair game.
Sure. Well, that will be the cool and interesting thing on your property if you see some young bucks that'll have the characteristic of this buck right here, because that's very unique in having those drops coming off that beam right there. So, well, Jessica, I am so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. And wow,
you.
that is a deer of a lifetime, my dear. And I'm so glad you got scored by the BTR. So tell all you folks up that way I said hello. And hopefully we'll be able to do another podcast with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, folks, that does it for another Buckmaster's Big Buck Blueprint podcast with Miss Jessica Burke from Virginia. See you later.
Thank you.